Sudatta. The sutras tell us that wealthy Indians love making lavish offerings to their spiritual masters, like blanketing entire meadows in gold. Even today, well-to-do Indian families continue to uphold the tradition of making regular and generous offerings to monks, nuns, and those who renounce worldly life to follow a spiritual path. Sudatta was a monk, a bodhisattva, the son of an extravagantly rich merchant, and Buddha's next choice as emissary. Would Sudatta visit Visali on his behalf? But the memory of Sudatta's own encounter with Vimalakirti was still too fresh in his mind, and he, too, begged to be excused. Please, Lord Buddha, don't make me go.
Siddhartha was making huge offerings to an enormous number of people when suddenly, as if out of nowhere, Vimalakirti appeared before him. It's down. What are you doing, Siddhartha? Exclaimed Vimalakirti. Do you really consider these meager offerings to be somehow generous? Is this the full extent of your so-called generosity? Is it? It is? Well, it's not genuine generosity. So what's the point? What you should be offering these people is the truth, the supreme kind of generosity. You should also be offering love, compassion, joy, equanimity, and all that.
Sudatta was extremely impressed. I have a feeling he was particularly receptive because we are told he was so moved by Vimalakirti's words that he gathered every piece of jewelry he owned, pearls, diamonds, gold, everything, and offered it all to Vimalakirti. At first, Vimalakirti wouldn't accept any of it. Please accept what I offer, said Sudatta, and do whatever you want with it.
Donna, do you want to read it?
Sure, I can read, Kim. Thank you. Where? I'm sorry.
Eventually. Eventually.
Okay, thank you. Eventually, Vimalakirti.
Vimalakirti.
Vimalakirti. Thank
Good.
you. Vimalakirti accepted all of it. Then shows a priceless string of enormous pearls cut in two and offered one half to the Buddhas and the other half to the city's most despised beggars. Having offered exactly the same number of pearls to both the Buddhas and the beggars, he gave a long talk about fields of merit.
That's pretty neat, isn't it?
It is.
I think it's me now. This is wild.
That's beautiful.
Wow, what is that supposed to be? People?
Buddhas? Buddhas, maybe?
Buddhas?
Pearls and Buddhas.
There you go, Emily.
This is another very important teaching. We tend to imagine that accumulating merit means making offerings to the Buddhas and sublime being. But here Vimalakirti states unmistakably that sentient beings are just as important a field of merit as the Buddhas.
Can someone pronounce that for me?
Manjushri.
Manjushri. Thank you. Buddha now turned to Manjushri. Would he be Buddha's emissary? Would he visit Vimalakirti to find how? Would he visit Vimalaya to find out how Vimalakirti was doing? And to everyone's surprise, Vimalakirti agreed at once. Vimalakirti? Yes, I will go. The man is so accomplished. And then he went on to sing Vimalakirti's praises at some length.
Vimalakirti is an exceptional being, said Manjushri. He knows exactly how another person experiences their senses. He sees what they see, hears what they hear, tastes what they taste, and so on, which, if you think about it, it's quite a big deal. The rest of us can only imagine what macaroni or chicken curry tastes like in someone else's mouth, even when that person is sitting right in front of us. And the taste we imagine is entirely based on the macaroni or chicken curries that we ourselves have tasted in the past. Vimalakirti, on the other hand, could experience what the other person tastes through their senses without any reference to his own.
That Manjushri admired Vimalakirti for such qualities was high praise indeed, and demonstrated that, far from being an ordinary businessman, Vimalakirti was not only a sublime being, but an exceptionally accomplished one. People like us who claim we understand how other people feel can only base our projected understanding on what we ourselves experience. In other words, we never truly know what it's like to put ourselves in someone else's shoes. We merely slip into our own shoes, then pretend they are the other person's. Only a very accomplished being like Vimalakirti, or Manjushri, for that matter, can taste as another tastes, see through another's eyes, and smell as another smells, without having to rely on their own limited, incomplete terms of reference.
May I go next, Kim?
Sorry, Nelda.
It's all right. I just want to make sure I don't jump in the wrong spot. It's not difficult to imagine how thrilled and excited everyone in the mango grove felt when Manjushri agreed to visit Vimalakirti, or how determined they were to follow him to Vaisali to witness what promised to be an immensely significant historic encounter, the kind of excitement philosophers might feel at the prospect of Lao Tzu meeting Aristotle or Karl Marx appearing on a talk show with Chuang Tzu.
The moment Manjushri agreed to visit him, Vimalakirti, who was still supposedly ill in bed, instantly knew he was on his way. He also knew that Manjushri would be accompanied by a large and curious crowd. Manjushri is coming, thought Vimalakirti, so I must make my house empty. Instantly, the people, furniture, carpets, sofas, and chairs disappear. Another important detail, leaving the palace empty, except for the bed Vimalakirti was lying on. It was like emptying all 775 rooms in Buckingham Palace and leaving a single bed in the middle of one of the rooms with the queen lying in it. As Vimalakirti's servants, attendants, and bodyguards also disappeared with the furniture, there was no one to greet Manjushri and his entourage when they arrived at the palace gate. All they found was a big empty palace and Vimalakirti.
Manjushri greeted Vimalakirti politely and then inquired after his health, asking all the usual questions. How are you? When did you fall ill? What's actually wrong with you? And so on. At first, this conversation about illness appears to be quite ordinary. Yet Vimalakirti's startlingly brilliant responses make it philosophically groundbreaking. Do your doctors say you will start to feel better? Asked Manjushri. I don't think I'll ever get better, said Vimalakirti, because as long as there is desire and craving, there will be existence.
Of course, people like you and me aren't able to understand a single word these two illustrious bodhisattvas said that day. Our minds are too shallow, dull, and prejudiced to fathom the profound depth and acuity of such great minds. But when Vimalakirti said existence, he might have been referring to samsara, which is everything that is bound by time and space, direction and quantity. If we have a craving, that craving makes us project, and then that projection is what we call existence, so-called samsara, is therefore none other than existence itself. Descartes' famous dictum, I think, therefore I am, suggests something similar, but Vimalakirti's statement encompasses so much more. He seems to be saying that as long as there is desire, there will be samsaric existence. And as long as there are samsaric beings, I, Vimalakirti, will remain ill. Or while there is existence, there will also be samsara. And while there is samsara, we will continue to imagine there is compassion for samsaric beings.
Do you mind, Cassie, reading the last 2 or 3 sentences again, especially that very last one? I had never thought of that.
He seems to be saying that as long as there is desire, there will be samsaric existence. And as long as there are samsaric beings, I, Vimalakirti, will remain ill. Or while there is existence, there will also be samsara. And while there is samsara, we will continue to imagine that there is compassion for samsaric beings.
What does anyone make of that last sentence? We will continue to imagine that there is compassion for samsaric beings. I mean, is he saying that compassion is another construct of existence?
I think so. Yeah.
Yeah.
Thank you.
One without the other cannot exist, I think.
But as long as we imagine it too, there is suffering.
You don't need compassion if there's no suffering.
Say that again.
So what you're saying is that you don't need compassion if there's no suffering. Right?
Or if we don't imagine suffering, then we don't imagine compassion.
Yeah, I agree.
Vimalakirti went on to say, when all sentient beings are free from all ailments, or when sentient beings are free from making distinctions, which is another way of describing absolute liberation, only then will I, Vimalakirti, be free from the sickness of subject and object. What a thing to say! What a subject to discuss! And remember, he was responding to a question that he was purely asked as a courtesy. Yet it triggered one of the most compelling teachings in the Vimalakirti Sutra. How did you catch this illness? Compassion made me sick, replied Vimalakirti. Bodhisattvas get sick because of compassion. Another sensational answer.
Okay, Donna.
It was then that Manaharusi noticed the palace was completely empty. What happened? Why is your house empty? Where is everyone? Why don't you have a nurse? Buddha fields are always empty, replied Vimalakirti. Empty of what? Asked Manhusiri. Empty of emptiness. How can emptiness be empty? To be empty of emptiness is to think emptiness is emptiness, and to be empty of that.
It didn't take Vimalakirti long to get down to the nitty-gritty. Was he saying that to be empty of emptiness is to be beyond the distinction between empty and full, to be empty of concepts? That's what it sounds like to me. Where is emptiness? Asked Manjushri. You will find it in the 62 wrong views, replied Vimalakirti. What a fantastic answer and an excellent point. Many followers of the Buddha's Dharma, especially of the Mahayana, would have expected the answer to where is emptiness or what is emptiness to be emptiness is the ultimate teaching of the Buddhas. Emptiness is found in the highest sutras, like the Prajnaparamita Sutta, and so on. But instead, Vimalakirti said that emptiness is found not in right views, but in wrong views. We should all make a note of this.
Excuse me, what does Buddha field means?
Someone want to answer that?
Kim, can you go back to where it's mentioned and we can see it in context? Buddha fields are always empty. I take it to mean the place, the location, the field in which Buddhas arise or Buddhas inhabit. The place where there are Buddhas.
So they're empty in order for more Buddhas to arise?
I think of it more like Dharma with a small d. Not that it's different than what Anne said, but the big D is the sutras, and the little d is the kind of all the things that we know about everything or nothing.
So this reminds me of the chant Gate Gate, gone, gone, Paragate, far gone, Parasum Gate, all the way gone. Gati Gati Prakatasa, Bodhisvata. So it's beyond, 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 beyond all conceptions. And I picture that as the Buddha field, but I may be wrong.
I'm thinking nothing is fixed. That's the Buddha field, too. Sort of goes along with, nothing fixed.
Seventh level of emptiness, or whatever Dante would have called it.
So here's what AI says. Buddha field in traditional Buddhism. In classic Mahayana texts, a Buddha field refers to a pure land, a realm created by a Buddha or Bodhisattva, characterized by purity and ideal conditions for spiritual development.
Thank you for all of
Okay.
your responses. And now I'm going to ask something else. When he says compassion made me sick, bodhisattvas get sick because of compassion, does that mean that is the reason, that is because they feel compassion for the rest of humanity and that's why they stay alive in order to help the rest of humanity?
Well, that's what the Bodhisattva does.
So that means that that's why he says that compassion makes him sick, because it makes him stay alive and having to go through death. It's just that what is being talked about there, it seems to me like a metaphor for death and rebirth in a way.
Well, you don't you feel sickness when you hear someone's troubles?
Yeah.
And so he's listening to everyone. So he's super sick.
Yeah, and that's what I mean. If he is a bodhisattva, he could have moved on, but he stayed because of his compassion
No,
towards
actually,
everyone
being
else.
a bodhisattva, he would stay.
Yes, but the reason to stay is because of his compassion
Right.
towards the rest of humanity.
Yes.
And
Right.
if he wouldn't have felt that compassion, he wouldn't be sick because he wouldn't be here.
Exactly. Yeah.
Okay.
So now I have a question, because that sounds like a compassion tainted with a shadow side, of a pity side, an empathy side, where you point the arrow towards yourself. It doesn't sound like a pure compassion, which is to hold people in a big enough container with their pain and not make it your own.
Is such a thing possible?
I think it is.
Because, Buddha said that everything is everything. And so your compassion truly is, their suffering is truly your suffering. So to have compassion is to have compassion for your own suffering as well.
And if you step away and hold someone else stuff out that far, are you really feeling compassion? Are you really transmitting compassion? Because to me, compassion is being able to at least interact with those feelings that you think someone else is feeling, and then give them energy or light or whatever. But if you can't feel it yourself, then how can you be compassionate? How can you have
So,
compassion if you can't understand it?
so I'll respond because 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 I get a visual. If I see someone suffering and I hold their suffering like a dagger to my heart that makes me ill or wounds me, that's not compassion, that's egoic. But if I hold them tenderly in their suffering like a baby and just hold them, that just, and even talking about it, my heart opens up, thinking about holding someone in that container of, I see your hurt. I wish you ease. I wish you comfort. I wish you joy and peace. Those are the things I hope for you, instead of making the me, the center of their suffering and getting sick as a result is sort of, so yeah, I think it's possible. My experience is I don't feel in my body that it makes me any less compassionate. It keeps me from drowning.
I when I mentioned that because he feels the compassion is the trigger for him to make the decision to become a bodhisattva. It doesn't mean that the suffering of those who he feels compassion for makes them be sick because of that. The decision to want to stay alive, to help everybody, that's not in the destructive way of I feel your pain so much that it destroys me, but more of like when you were saying about a baby, if you hear them cry and you can hold them and you can go there, it's going to be okay. You do that because you feel that the baby's in distress, the baby is suffering in that moment, and you feel their pain and you want to take that pain away. So it's not about feeling their pain in such a way that it drowns you, but you can feel it. And the thing is that on what we're reading, it also says here that these two people are so so I don't know what the word to use, but the thing is that they're able to feel what other feels without even using their own experience. They can taste what that other person has tasted without ever having even taste the food that they have tasted. So I do think that they do feel that empathy, that compassion, and is what it drives them to do what they do. So I think it's more about the drive because they know how much they are suffering. They want to alleviate that.
But not necessarily take it into themselves. They just want to do what they can to alleviate it.
Yes, because because if you, it's like if you are trying to save somebody who's drowning and in the process you drown yourself, then nobody's getting saved. You can help somebody who's drowning without you drowning.
Maybe it's a little bit sequential, like first you would feel some great pain. They did some high-speed photographs of nurses in ER, and they saw that these quick micro expressions of being of like horror, of being completely being wiped out by what they were seeing, and you couldn't even see it with the naked eye. But then they went and did the job. So we're seeing Vimalakirti. It was so big that it just wiped him out at first. But then, as we read the sutra, maybe we'll find that he can go beyond that. So where are we now? Oh, we're not here. Are we at where do these 62 wrong views come from?
Yes.
Okay, and who's reading? Who read last?
Maybe it was Donna?
Okay.
Yeah,
I
I think
think
it was
you're
Donna.
right.
And then Emily. Oh, so it's Kim, because I'm after Emily. Where do these 62 wrong views come from? Asked Manjushri. Obviously, getting a handle on any part of this exchange is extremely difficult, let alone trying to describe what Vimalakirti said next. Had I understood, even on an intellectual level, what Manjushri and Vimalakirti discussed in the Sutra, or the many other conversations about this subject that have been recorded, my perception of the samsaric world would be of little more than shadows, or a bubble, or a game of make-believe, or a toy. But I haven't understood any of it at any level. When people like you and me look, see, hear, and taste, our experience is not of a bubble, or a dream, or a toy. Our experience is tangible, concrete, solid, and very fat. I like that.
I like that too. The 62 wrong views arise as a display, vibration, hue, or mood that reflect the quality of the Tathagata Garba, Buddha nature, replied Vimalakirti. A shocking statement at best of times, but but particularly scandalous to those of us who read towards the puritanical, who tend toward the puritanical, moralistic, and dualistic, and those and whose strong habit is to judge right from wrong. People like us always expect wrong views to crawl out of filthy pits or smelly dungeons. But it looks as though Vimalakirti is telling Manjasu that the source of all wrong views, is found in what we think of as sublime. This statement of his has been quoted many times, in Vajra Jayana, teachings. Even so, it's a notion that's virtually incomprehensible to dualistic beings like us. It's like being told that the source of darkness is light. But thinking about it, aren't dark and light a natural juxtaposition? Doesn't darkness only exist when compared with light, and vice versa? There cannot only be darkness, can there? Nor can there only be light. If darkness and shadows were not born from light, or light born from shadow, how would photographers be able to work their magic?
At the same time, I have a feeling this conversation isn't merely about the dependent arising of light and shadow, which itself is mystifying, especially when you first hear about it. No, this conversation is about much more than that. It's like digging something up, believing it's a rock when discovering it's actually a diamond. I've been told that the Kohinoor diamond wasn't cut and polished until quite late in its history, yet it was always a diamond. If you had seen it before, it was cut and thought it was just another ugly rock that could be around you. Now that it has been cut, it's easy to recognize. It's one of the most famous diamonds in the world to this day. India and Pakistan
Fine.
whine about how the British stole it from the 6th and the 19th century. But the point here is that whatever it looked like before it was cut and polished, it was still the famous Koh-i-Noor diamond, and that it was a diamond long before it was ever called the Koh-i-Noor. So, do you have a Assume it was just a lump of rock could have been around you.
Where are your attendants? Asked Manjushri. Why isn't there anyone here to help you? Demons? Pardon me. Demons and those who disturb me are my attendants, replied Vimalakirti. Remember, Vimalakirti's illness and its symptoms are important details because this entire conversation was triggered by a commotion in a mango grove about who would visit a man who was supposed to be ill.
Again, it's a struggle to make sense of the profound insights of these two superlative bodhisattvas continued to come up with. Again, it's a struggle to make sense of the profound insights these two superlative bodhisattvas continued to come up with. But it seems to me they come to the conclusion that to be ill is to believe in a self. You are ill if you cling to the idea of a self, and you are ill if you imagine that self is true, present, and alive. Self is, of course, a reference, but as strong and stubborn as this reference may first appear, the more closely you scrutinize it, the less distinct it becomes. Nevertheless, our constant reference to self is the source of all our other references. And having established a self, many other designations spill out. Others, mine, theirs, good, bad, ugly, right, wrong, giver, receiver, victim, predator, heaven, earth, hell, samsara, nirvana, moral, immoral, men, women, each and every one of which we try desperately to cling to. Some we grab at because we think they are good. Others we try to push aside or eliminate completely because they look bad or dangerous or untrustworthy. By examining everything in order to judge whether it's worthy or unworthy of us, we end up clinging to both the good and the bad even more tightly.
From the point of view of these two bodhisattvas, our tendency to cling is what illness really is. We are only healthy, well, and strong when we have no points of reference. Although we want to cure our illnesses by applying the remedy of a spiritual path, meaning the practices of generosity, patience, one-pointed concentration, and so on, because that path has the goal of enlightenment, is just another form of illness. So as far as Manjushri and Vimalakirti are concerned, whatever we practice on that path, even meditation, is also a sickness.
They go deeper still by saying that if we think we have something that needs extracting, deleting, or purifying, like desire, anger, or jealousy, the very fact we think we have to get rid of it is itself an illness. As is imagining there is something we should adopt, achieve, acquire, or accumulate, like nirvana or enlightenment. Or the subjective and objective compassion of believing there is a self that feels compassion and sentient beings to feel compassion for.
Basically, everything is a disease or an affliction. A reference, a movement, and a stream of thought are all illnesses because they turn us away from the truth. Imagining there is such a thing as an ailment is also an illness, and so is the idea that there is a remedy or a cure, which makes longing for liberation an illness, because it is the result of believing that you are bound to samsara and that whatever binds you is holding you back from liberation. All our references are illnesses. They are like viruses, ailment viruses. But of all of the ailments that exist in samsara, two require particular attention: reference to liberation and reference to bondage.
Kim or Anne, I just have a comment. Could you please remind me which part of the book we are reading as the prologue, or because I got not a little, a lot of confusion with all what we read. Sounded a little bit provocative intentionally to me, and I don't know if the sutra comes after or what are we exactly reading.
Yes, the sutra comes next.
So this is yours, just the author.
This is another author, an essay by another author about the sutra.
Well, more like a story than an essay.
Well, some of it, I think you're right. It's someone's opinion. And is that what you mean?
Yeah.
And
I
so,
mean,
like I had a teacher who'd say, listen to everyone and believe no one. So
good advice, no.
it's just kind of what it is. So we'll have to decide for ourselves how close it is to the sutra. And the question I have, is he pretending to be ill because of this great compassion? If he's such a great bodhisattva, it seems he would get past even this illness. But maybe he wants to do this as a teaching. That's how I see it.
Yeah, I thought he was pretending all along. I don't know where I got that from, but I that's what I thought.
Yeah.
I think it's just the way he is and has presented himself. And, is it good to confront compassion? And he's allowing everybody to confront their version of compassion because he's ill or pretending to be ill or something like that.
There's a great koan, a Zen koan, about the master is ill and the monk comes to the master and says, is there one that is not ill? And the master says, yes, there is. And the monk says, does the one who is not ill take care of you? And the master says, no, I am allowed to take care of the one who is not ill. And to me, this kind of fits into this, that the aspect of non-illness is something we get to take care of, that we get to cherish and cultivate.
I understood it the opposite. And I thought that the one that is sick is because he is the bodhisattva. And that's why he's taking care of the one who isn't. That is his job, basically.
Something I ran into the other day was that the real job of the bodhisattva is to and I think we read this somewhere here, maybe, is to take care, is to initiate people's compassion. It's not to like to fix everyone's plumbing. You know, it's
I
not
like
to,
that.
and that's what he's doing. He's I, I hope. No, I think that's what he's doing. Really teaching us about compassion.
I think it's also like he's sick because the world is sick, but the world doesn't know it's sick, and you know that to me that's the teaching, and yeah, and this whole thing about the reference and the desire and the getting rid of, they're both, it's such a beautiful point. It's the two sides of the same coin, and we want to, we want to get, like it reminds me of the exile parts. We want to get rid of these parts, and saying no, no, no. The parts are part of it, and in fact maybe they're a key part. So no references, and it's really very deep. And so I think that's why he's sick, to alert us to our own sickness.
Like he's doing with all of Buddha's followers who refused to go see Vimalakirti out of their own sickness of fear. Yeah.
I think we have a lot going on in our heads, and I think we should stop here and do our writing as opposed to go into this new section. Do you all agree?
Yes.
Okay, good. We have 2 yeses. That's enough.
Well, I wish that worked in real life.
So let's write for 10 minutes till 8:03, or 3 minutes after the hour. Am I going to have to share first? Okay, I will share first. I'm questioning not how I can understand this, but rather how I can be a bodhisattva. I tried to fix someone's plumbing today, and it turned out to be a more difficult job than I had imagined. How might I have instead conveyed compassion? Plumbers are common, but compassion teachers, maybe I'll put a question mark there. It can't be done with a lecture, but rather through an experience. And that experience was visiting compassion itself. What do you say to pure compassion, which in this case feels more like love? And he's presented it naked with nothing extra, pure and an unadulterated compassion for all, gut-wrenching compassion. You going to read, Nelda? You're unmuted.
Well, I wasn't offering to, but I will. I wrote at the top, more questions than answers. What is the hue, shape, and tone of a bodhisattva's boundless compassion? Bodhisattva in itself seems to hold the flavor of no self, a chosen path to place suffering that is outside oneself before one's own eternal peace, bliss, and non-return to samsaric existence. Or is the chosen path actually one through which a bodhisattva actually experiences eternal bliss? Some people's hell is another people's heaven. So as interconnected, co-creating, dependently arising experiences that we are with all that's around us, is there any way not to experience suffering since we resonate the cosmic experience around us? It seems like suffering is really boils down to an aversive perception, much like the self-flagellation among priests and monks of old. Some found it soothing and connecting, while I would find it brutal. That's as far as I got.
Go. So the quote, "Do your doctors say when you will start to feel better?" asked Manjushri. "I don't think I'll ever get better," said Vimalakirti, "because as long as there is desire and craving, there will be existence." And then I'm writing, "Because the world is sick, I am sick. We are one, not two. By choosing to be in the world, I am choosing to meet my engagement with the world with all of my heart, with my mind not being a separate entity, with my desire not to be the foundation of my judging mind. The primal disease of the mind, the concept of good and evil, it consumes all interactions because it creates definitions, tiny boxes classified on a shelf. Make me calm, make me safe, make my mind closed. What happens if I drop the whole dualistic game? No definitions, no frustrations, no expectations, no patience, no offering, no helping."
Thank you. Well, I kind of wandered around a bit, but if you don't mind wandering, you don't mind reading. Compassion is such an overwhelming word or concept. I always feel compassion is incomplete without action. Maybe not an action like bringing money or food to those in need, although one should do these things. But to do them with compassion to me means it's not done just because it's the right thing to do, but to know what it feels like to be hungry, not to have electricity because you don't have the money to pay the bill, to understand in a visceral manner and to want to move that pain away and fill the space with warmth and wholeness. In that way, compassion gets transferred and moves on. I can hear I can hear someone say, but are the results not the same? Does the person not get fed? Do the lights not come on? They do. But does the person receiving the food and the money not feel less than? Are they then moved to help someone else or do they just feel relieved and wait for the next helping hand? Or if they're in a better place, will they help the next person? If one is helped by a compassionate person, would the compassion not be moved on too?
I wrote about my experience of compassion as it stands, which is, of course, it's bound to change. But today, compassion for me is a poison and a balm. Compassion is a bridge to healing and a bridge to pain. It's a path towards another's pain and a journey inward to a past or present or future pain that I carried long ago, that I carry now, or that I imagine I may carry someday. Compassion is a mirror. When I hold the mirror to another's suffering, I hold the mirror to my own suffering. Compassion is a place of waiting with uncertainty. It's a communion in the unknowable. It is limitless, it is boundaryless, and the demons of compassion are here to burden me and help me.
Emily, what do you see as the demons of compassion?
Do you know, it brought to mind on Sunday, I was doing yoga with a group of people. It was like a community class, and a woman brought her son. He was like 4 years old. And he, during down dog, he kept climbing on top of her and riding her like a horse. And so the aunt took him off, and off he went, and we continued our practice. And then, of course, right at the point where the teacher decided to do a balance pose, very challenging balance pose, boy pops up again, starts running around, and yeah, he is the demon of compassion.
I can read. Mine is quite a bit more prosaic than this. I wrote, I wish we had started with the Sutra. I appreciate not having someone pre-digest it for me. Though that's life. We have a bunch of ideas, they seem brilliant, so we write a book. They're simply my ideas. Spiritual books have a particular burden dealing with ideas like truth and reality. Why read anything but poetry? Though I love the science book I'm reading, I don't see it as the final word on the subject, though, more just another point of view.
So here's what I wrote. If you had the chance to keep living, would you? If you had the chance to be free, would you? If you had the chance to be sick and healthy at the same time, could you? If you are sick and healthy at once, what are you? What state would it be if you were all and not? Nirvana?
Well, is that it for the people who'd like to read? Okay. So see you next week, if not before. Nelda, could you stay on a second so we could talk about tomorrow? Thank you.
Good night. Thank you.
Good night.
Hi,
Good night.
good to be with you.
Good night.
Good night. Hello.
I'm trying to get into the mood of spiritual bypassing.
Switch. I'm so glad I came. I almost didn't.
So when I studied this before, it was just the sutra. So I'm really glad we're doing it as we're doing it, because then we have a lot of stuff to weigh, you know, and then Anne's completely right also. but it's a different experience.
Yes. And I wonder, for those of us who are less practiced, I should say, newer to the practice, as opposed to people who have been there years and read so much. I find this sort of preface very helpful to sort of lay a big basket around it, to loosely hold the sutra and then look at it. It's like going to an opera and reading the libretto before you go. It's helpful.
So tomorrow, well, I'm going to lead tomorrow. It's my turn.
Okay.
And so anyway, I'm trying to remember what we're reading. We're still reading that long essay.
Yes.
And do I have the page? Yeah, the bottom of page 4.
And we gave, I don't think it's the best
Oh,
word.
that's right. We gave homework. What was the homework?
The homework is to walk through your week with a particular experience. In the case of the quote that Leah sent us, it was about loneliness, but it could have been about anything, and to see how that reverberated through your body, see how you held it and experienced it. People don't have to share, but at least give those who want to an opportunity of what that experience was like for them.
Well, could you lead that part of it?
Yes, I'll write down our homework.
And that will be at the beginning.
Yes.
Because I always think that homework, when given, should be collected. You know what I mean?
Yes, if people choose to turn it in, in the Buddhist practice, right?
And then we'll go on with the reading.
Okay, sounds great.
Yeah. Very good.
All right, thank you, Kim.
And how's everything else?
I am feeling hopeful today. I got into my long ago made appointment with a neurosurgeon, Dr. Lorayson. He's a professor of neurosurgery, has been at some medical school, highly acclaimed, one of the top neurosurgeons in the city. And I'm much encouraged because he has referred me for additional testing, a pelvic MRI now. They've done a spine one, but he really thinks this is a pelvic thing, and also to work jointly with his favorite orthopedic surgeon, because he said without more tests, you can't really tell what this is. There's not enough information. And after I get those 2 different tests done and some sort of resonance thing. So I have more appointments, which is good because it's fact collecting, and it just felt hopeful.
Good.
I liked what seemed like his intelligence and experience. So yeah, it was good.
Good. Okay.
All right, see you tomorrow.
Yes.
Thank
Bye.
you.
Thank you.